It's it's like when it's a platforming bit though, and then they fill in the platform so it's no longer a jump or anything. That's when.
Yes, please. I want that version of Tomb Raider. Oh dear. Oh, hello and welcome to Tomb Raider Race to the End. And this week we have been trying to escape with the iris, not with the ISIS, the iris.
I thought you said eyes.
Well, it is
like Saw.
Essentially an eye, isn't it? What is this thing we're trying to nick?
It sounds Egyptian. An iris. Temple of... Oh no, I'm thinking of Osiris, I think. It's quite a cool beginning, I thought. Yeah, so begins with the cool X-ray room.
Yeah, the effect was really nice, and what I enjoyed most about that was sending you back there with a clue that you should look in one of the boxes there.
Bearing in mind, I was stuck and been exploring for a while, and that to me was like, of course. I did try and open one as well at one point, and I must have been the other side of it, so I couldn't get in. So I was like, there is something in there, a bomb. I think we both charged straight into that and got shot up twice.
I made it through.
Okay, you've been a bad.
But they didn't stop shooting you, though, did they?
No. And then I got sliced up by some infrared lasers.
Oh, well. Then wandering through the halls and the offices, trying to find chloroform and a rag. And I got a bit frustrated because I went up to a door and it didn't open. I obviously wasn't close enough because the rag was in there. So I spent a lot of time being chased around by the guy with the gun, thinking I need to find a rag, and not actually finding it until after he was chasing me, at which point it was too late.
Too late, because you can't sneak up on them and use it. The action of sneaking up on people and doing a stealth attack is poor. We've said it before, like, it was especially badly introduced when you do it against the chef. And then just having to do it more in these levels just made me realise how it's not very easy to do, and it's not very well laid out.
No, it should be almost like a button, so you can just do it easier. Maybe don't need items to do it, which would make it a bit smoother. And one solution for how it is now as well is once they spot you, it's game over essentially. Especially with the chef. So they should have made them much more brutal so that you basically die every time they spot you. And then you don't get into that full sense of security and think that you can carry on the level and that's what's supposed to happen.
Yes, I'm with you there. Like a quick, immediate death, or it may be like you don't even die, but it just sort of, the screen fades to grey and it goes, you lose, or whatever.
Yeah, nice view out the window though.
Very nice view out of the window when you're not getting shot in the back. It reminded me a bit of when the sun sets over the Streets of Rage in the first Streets of Rage.
Yeah, definitely. I was playing with, I think, you once, and we got to the final boss and you have to choose whether you join him or go against him. And we went, well, one of us go for, one go against, and then we'll know what happens.
Sure, what was the right
fight each other.
Yeah. If you do that and then you go and complete it, then you get the bad ending. You have to do like the last sort of 3 levels again and then face Big Boss or Mr. X or whatever his name is. Rather than seeing the sunset with your buddies and the cops and that, you just sat on the throne and says you are the boss. Right, so next up, I told you how to progress, and we got through to the bathroom, and I was very stuck on this point, and you helped me out.
Well, actually, you spotted first of all the texture on the ceiling, but I think I would have missed that completely if you hadn't have pointed it out to me.
The camera angles in the office rooms and then in the cubicles is awful.
I kept getting stuck on the sink as well in the cubicle area, toilet. And then we head outside to a lift shaft with some kind of tricky to spot maneuvers, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know what to do.
I think the only reason I kind of figured out where to go, apart from trial and error resulting in death, was that it was very contained. So there wasn't many other things that you could try.
Yeah. So to explain this bit, you have to crawl through the vent, you crawl out, and then you have a climbing texture down the side. But you can't just drop off at the bottom because it's a slope platform, and that leads you to a fall to your death. And you can't simply do a backflip onto what you think there's another sort of platform a bit further away because you overshoot it. What you have to do is a backflip off the top whilst mid-roll, a turn mid-air, the roll button, and grabbing the chain on the other side, which when you do it, it does make you feel like a badass.
Parkour.
Parkour.
And then at the top, swing over the other side and up on top of the lift. Again, texture on the floor, but this one's a little bit more obvious, and it makes sense to have a lift emergency access on top of a lift.
This lift shaft stuff is very Die Hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting more strong Die Hard vibes at this level.
You open the door and there's a man there who this time you can't chloroform, which makes perfect sense.
And it's misleading, seeing as I managed to get another jar of chloroform.
Yeah. You get in the lift, and this bit, I thought this section was quite cool. Doors open, and there's a load of bad guys shooting at you, and you have to quickly shut the doors. But then you get sent into a free fall, and you still think it's potentially a cutscene, and fall all the way to the bottom of the shaft before you realise you have to press a button to slam the brakes on. I thought that section was quite fun. Dying at every point, reloading, but learning from that.
I feel like that would have been the perfect end point to this level. They should have split it in two effectively.
She could have got knocked out at the bottom, and that could have been like the next level was her waking up in the kind of broken lift. So we get on to level 2 within the level, and there's a bit of platforming again to climb back up this lift shaft. And I got here a bit before you, but I got completely stuck at the top, just jumping between platforms, swinging across the bar, and then to another platform. So it was at this point we had to have a little sneaky peek as to what to go.
This shaft that you had to jump into, it's all the same colour, so it was very hard to spot.
Lift cables blocked your view of the gap, so as you swang across on the pole, the lift cables hid the hole, which is a bit tricky, but it's quite clever at the same time. Gymnastics.
Yeah, how did you find your gymnastics class?
I died a lot of times in that strange furnace that they keep right by the lift shaft. What is it, a nuclear powered lift?
This is the weirdest feeling ever. You're coming up this lift sort of platform. You suddenly, it switches to the view of a scope and it's on you. And you have to sort of figure out how the controls have changed and run away from it, otherwise you're going to get shot. And here, I got stuck and wouldn't have been able to progress unless you'd helped me out. You had to make your way to the side and climb up. And I didn't realise that one of these textures on the side was climbable.
I did like that bit. I thought it was clever, and the controls felt quite natural, even though it was almost like micro machines when you're coming towards the camera and you have to switch in your head. But yeah, no, that was a good section. So you go through into the room where you get blocked in, and they're welding or blowtorching, cutting through, plasma cutting, the door open.
So of course you're in a hurry. You need to quickly find a way out of there.
Did you listen to Zip?
I tried. I didn't quite catch the whole message, So he's like, "Oh, watch out for these motion sensing turrets in the top corner." So I was like, "Okay, I'll run to the top corner. It's something to do with finding in the top." Nope. I will listen again carefully the next time. Walk steadily, press a couple of buttons, calls. No, it just opens the door for you to get out of that sort of boardroom area.
I think if you're too slow as well, that's a kind of time section where the kind of Robocop will come through and mess you up if you're too slow. And then you get into a room full of cool boxes with bombs in.
Yeah. Standard.
I tested every single one, even though the correct one I got was the second one, because I didn't want to miss out on any secrets or. But then I actually, on the way out, there's a roof texture that leads into another room with another X-ray wall, so you can actually then see which one's the correct one.
How frustrating. I hate those things because I never get it right, and I'm just like, well, I've tried it this enough times, that's not that, and it is that. So many deaths on this level, so many reloads.
Yeah,
too many.
Definitely the worst one for volume of deaths. Yeah. Teleport.
Yeah, this was another WTF moment. Like, you put the iris
CD
teleportation.
Oh, yeah. Device. Yeah.
Why? I thought you were trying to steal it. Where have you teleported it to?
Well, she goes with it though, so it's still safe in her possession.
At that point as well.
Yep, but yeah, you both go.
And that's why you're sealed in the room, because you're in a different room.
Yeah, and it's red and textures, color is slightly different. Yeah, you go with it.
It's the same room. Okay.
And then this section I thought was quite another cool concept, another nice mechanic of having to spy on the soldier to see what buttons he pressed. Did you use a headset or did you just kind of look?
I used the headset, but it didn't appear to be any better, so I just looked and I kind of tried to see where they were in relation to each other, and I tried to listen as well because I think it was like 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think you made that more complicated than it needed to be.
Yeah, I think so too. These guards are annoying in that, like, it's so easy to poke your head out at the wrong time, and then you've ruined the whole next sort of portion of the game.
And they see you when they're not in line of sight as well. Yeah, just a bit primitive programming, I guess. But this leads on to the end of the level where you get back to where you dropped your gun off at the very beginning, and you can use that to shoot out the fire extinguisher, which blasts open the door to the stairwell.
Or you can go back and get a revenge kill on that annoying guard first.
And I quite like the way that it did go all the way around. And I thought at the beginning when I put my gun in, I'm going to get this back. And there was a couple of textures on the ceiling. I thought you just have to go the other side over, open it from the above. But it was obviously a bit more convoluted than that.
It's that time again. It's time for the Tomb Raider Spotlight. Yay! And this week we're going to get a review of the Game Boy Advance Tomb Raider The Prophecy of my buddy Nick. Yeah.
Tomb Raider Prophecy begins by explaining Lara has deciphered a text in the Tome of Ezekiel, which describes 3 stones, artifacts required to unlock real magic. Unfortunately, as Lara always seems to find out, she's not the only one looking for the stones. A cult called Teg du Borez is also looking for the 3 stones to raise the Great Grey One.
You have no power here, Gandalf the Grey.
Lara's adventure begins in Sweden as she searches for the first stone. It's quite reminiscent of the first level of Peru in Tomb Raider 1. This is before she continues on to Cambodia, Italy, before the game's final sections in the cult's headquarters. The level design itself tends to make up the puzzle element of the game. However, it is generally find an object or switch to open a door, disarm a trap, rinse, repeat. However, some levels do provide a bit of relief from this by being fully platforming or a boss fight. Evolving from the Game Boy Color 2D design, this game is presented in isometric. It isn't quite full isometric like the Guardian of Light or the Temple of Osiris, and it does make seeing walls, jumps and pits sometimes a bit challenging.
As well as being difficult to see those pits and stuff, I thought you'll be interested to see the death fall animation from this game, just compared to the others.
Oh yeah.
The combat is remarkably like the classic Tomb Raider series, actually, where you kind of jump around a bit randomly while shooting to not get injured. There is a bit of an oddity with the shooting where if you're above or below a baddie on a ledge, you can't actually injure them with shooting, even if they're in your eye line. But there was a bit of a semi-glitch where if there is a corner between you and them, you can just keep shooting at them until they die. This was another funny moment where this wolf here decided to lunge at Lara into a spike pit.
Yeah, so I did actually quite enjoy the game. Obviously it's a bit limited by the hardware of Game Boy Advance, but it's probably worth a play for any true raider out there. I'll probably give it 3 horribly scary game over screens, 3.5 out of 5. The question that we posed each other this week was, what is your favourite boss fight from the Tomb Raider series? What did you come up with?
I think I need to start with a bit of a preface because I haven't played any of the reboot series, so I can't include anything from that. I have played through the Legend series now, just about completed Underworld. But I never felt like I mastered the control scheme. So whenever I made it past a boss or a baddie even, I felt like I fluked it. So for that reason, I'm looking at the classic series. Right, so looking at the classic series, I was there's a few I want to give like honourable mentions to before I go with my pick. So I really like the atmosphere in these boss fights, like the possessed Tony at the end of India in Tomb Raider 3, and the temple together. That's pretty cool. That made me feel like I was in an Indiana Jones film. Puna, when they turn around on the throne, you have to battle him and he's shooting you and you're jumping around, but there's only this small raised platform that you have to keep on.
Hard.
They're a bit reminiscent of when you fight against the big beastie Adam near the end of Tomb Raider 1, where you can't go off the edge of the platform sort of thing. And by the way, what the hell is that thing? Like, wow.
Resident Evil.
Yeah. Tomb Raider is secretly a horror game. What makes a good boss in classic Tomb Raider? I was thinking normally they're big and powerful, but with that they can tend to be a bit slow and lumbering. Examples of this, you got like them statues in Rome, the gladiators. You also got your Yeti bird protector thing in Tibet in Tomb Raider 2, and you got your Shiva statues in Tomb Raider 3. When I think about these ones actually gave me like a bit of fear. And in order to win the category of best boss, I feel like you have to have some trepidation when you come up and facing them, which I don't get from all of them. But yeah, I get it from the Shiva statues that you face in India. And the few other the ones that I got it from was the dragon, end of Tomb Raider 2, epic sort of challenge. The centaurs, which make me I jumped out of my skin where they jumped out of their skin. And of course the T-Rex, And this is the one I have to go for. If you think of Tomb Raider, you think of a boss, you think of the T-Rex. So I'm going to go for the T-Rex in number 1. The musical cue just gets you going like, what's happening? What's happening? And looking back now, it's not that hard, but like it's just that first moment when your heart's racing and the music's coming in that just does that for me. I feel like that's the one you're going to think of. That's the one everybody remembers. And therefore, that's the winner. I liked how they included them as like a secret sub-boss in number 2. And there was 2 of them at once that you could go after if you went for a secret. And when you fight the T-Rex in number 3, and you're sort of stuck in this lower ground point, that's kind of cool as well, because you're sort of panicked and like you can't exactly easily find a platform where they're not going to hurt you. And also the graphical update of the T-Rex in number 3, looks better than he's ever looked before. However, I have to say, like, was not a fan of the one in Anniversary, and like by this point, I feel like they'd sort of they'd leaned on it too much, they'd overused it. So nostalgia makes me say T-Rex. Is it still the best boss? Like, don't know. Maybe they've overplayed it now.
Well, it's more than just the fight, isn't it? And you said a lot more than just the battle with it there. So it can be the best one. I agree with the remake of that. The way that you have to kill it is just nonsensical. Make it run into a spiky bar a few times.
Who is your ultimate boss?
Yes. I think some of the ones in 5 have been quite interesting. The kind of various statues, and they're not just random sideways diagonal jumping and shooting, which some of the older games tended to be. I've mentioned the Kraken or the Underpus in previous episodes. I think that is a top quality boss. It almost kind of makes up the level. It's almost the boss stage. And the other one I really like is the Hydra battle in King Arthur's Tomb from the Cornwall kind of levels. Quite clever how you interact with the environment on that one to destroy it. But you know, the way you have to use the grapple hook and things, it wasn't just guns. But the one I'm going to go for is actually from the reboot series. So it's from Rise of the Tomb Raider, and it's actually a DLC, Challenge Tomb. Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider in particular have sections called Challenge Tombs, where they're kind of caves or a swim tunnel or a separate area of the map where you unlock or knock down a door, and you go through, and then it's a self-contained area, and they're quite often puzzle based with no enemies. Some have enemies, but they're generally based around the concept of puzzling, which is great because the game itself kind of lacks the puzzles. So this was a good way that the developers kind of kept in touch with the Tomb Raider roots, and they actually made up my favorite parts of the reboot series. And this one is Baba Yaga, and it's actually a real character, mythological character from Eastern Europe, and it's a witch type character. So this part of the game is set in Russia, or that region of Eastern Europe. The witch is in this veil and no one goes there. And Lara's friendly with a character in this game called Nadia, and she ventures into the veil to search for Nadia's granddad, I believe. I may be getting this slightly wrong, please forgive me. Correct me in the comments. So her grandfather's gone missing, and so Lara goes in after him, and she as she's walking through into the veil, there's these kind of pollen spores that she inhales, and they're a hallucinogen, and she has visions of her father, and she has all these horrible beasts coming up to her, and she manages to just jump in the river, float down the river, and the effects, I guess, kind of wear off. And later in the game, you get more storyline behind this, and you venture back to the Vale with the antidote. So you're no longer affected by the pollen. And this is great because you're going through the same section you went through before, but you're now seeing all of the hallucinogenic creatures and everything for what they actually were.
Do you then realise when you come back and you're not hallucinating, when you have the antidote, are there like a load of massacred cute bunny rabbits or anything like this?
Just no, rarer than that. These are these are on the
wiped out as a species of dodo.
Yeah, white rhinos, and yeah. And it's really great to kind of go back and see that and piece it together. But she runs out of antidote, so she starts to hallucinate again, just as she gets to Baba Yaga. And then you have this great boss battle where you're hallucinating. And so the witch is kind of flying around in this cauldron. And this game is quite realistic, and it's, you know, real. But by putting in that element of the hallucinogenic pollen, you can do crazy things, but it still fit with the storyline. I hope you play it one day, and if anyone else hasn't played it, I'm not going to give the full story away, but it's great in terms of storyline, the gameplay, how it fits in with the theme of the game, and yeah, just really impressed by that one when I played it.
So it was interesting that you liked the contrast there. There was a couple of bosses that I noted down that didn't quite make the cut, but I liked them because they were very different. Those being the bull in Tomb Raider Lost Revelation, because that's more of a puzzle based boss. And I also liked Sophia from Tomb Raider 3, the end of the London levels, because that's a different boss battle. It's pure platforming.
Yeah, that's great. And hide from her lightning bolts. And is that right? Yeah.
All right. So that was Tomb Raider Race to the End, Escape with the Iris. What were your overall thoughts on this level?
I did enjoy it. I 100% agree with you that was a natural end to the level in the lift, and it would have been more enjoyable over 2 levels. Because we're trying to do a level a week, you know, if we were playing separately, we probably would have stopped halfway through. But yeah,
because I think I might have like a patience bar, and it was sort of very depleted by the time I was finishing up the level, and that sort of takes away from my enjoyment of the level as well. So I would probably recommend if you're playing this one by yourself to split it into 2 gaming sessions.
I did enjoy having another level though where we were discussing things and kind of going through the level together a bit more.
Yeah, I enjoy the cooperative play sort of thing. But when it comes to the times, you did finish quicker than me, didn't you?
Yeah, I did it in like 2 hours 8 seconds or something. Didn't quite break the 2-hour bound.
Well, I broke the 2.5. So as you can imagine, I was a bit exhausted by the end of it, but I did find all 3 secrets. I have a question for you. Seeing as you've won the series, we could say this already. I can't come back anymore. I thought I would let you decide what game I complete for my YouTube channel next. Either Assassin's Creed, Uncharted 2, or Heavy Rain. So take your pick between them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outro.
Yeah. Improvise the outro. Go.
Well, it's your show. You can do it.
That's all, folks.
Well, it's the final one next week. You got to ham it up.
Yeah. Final race to the end next week. Red alert. We're actually doing it on a Friday. So if you want to watch the stream, Friday, not Thursday.
Excellent. See you next week. You know what? They might have a mechanic where if you die lots of times, they lower the difficulty without you knowing.
They do this, yeah. Like they definitely do this in Underworld. I couldn't do this platforming bit for ages, so then they kept on. They were spawning less and less bad guys at the same time until there were none.
That's great.